Hello, hello. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to the September Healers in Healthcare show. I have a very special guest today. We go way back. And before I bring her on, I wanted to let you know that if you are on live with us or if you're watching the replay, feel free to comment. This is a very interactive show, so we want to hear from you. We want to answer questions. You have an expert here. So I cannot wait to highlight her. She is here. She has a servant heart to help. She's a healer. And we're here to help you. So please, grant eCam Live access so that I can see. I see some people popping on with me now. So you're going to go to the top of the broadcast, click on eCam, the link, and that way whenever you're commenting, I can see who it is so we can answer all of your questions. So what is the Healers in Healthcare movement? Because that's really what the basis of this show is. So the Healers in Healthcare movement is this idea that when we do the inner work, when we connect to who we really are, when we release the masks and the barriers and the fear of everything that has kept us safe from past trauma, from abuse, from things that have happened in our lives that made us cover up who we really are. When we start to reveal, I always call it revealing your inner radiance and who you really are, that is how you become a beacon of light to ignite other people in your life. Because when you heal, other people in your life unconsciously heal. And they're like, wow, look how brightly Mariam's shining right now. I want to start taking care of myself and eating healthy. And so that's the idea of this group. Of everything that I do is to ignite other healers, to reveal who you really are, more of your innate gifts and your heart, so that you can be the beacon of light for your community. Because I can't do it all. I don't want to do it all. And so if I can help you to unlock what's already innate in you, then that is the biggest gift that God has given me, that I believe that I can serve the world with. So as a result of that, we've done many things. Mariam's actually in this book as well. So Moving Beyond the Counter, we actually published this about a year ago. And there's 19 different pharmacist entrepreneurs in that book. Even if you're not a pharmacist entrepreneur, there are so many amazing stories of overcoming trauma and hardship. And I wanted to bring these women together in this book to highlight their brilliance, to show that whatever story they were telling, whether it was, some kind of traumatic event or a divorce or something from childhood, that whenever they're sharing their story, that you connect to them. Because at the base of what we all experience in this human experience, we have shame, guilt, fear, judgment, all of these things that we're going to be talking about today. And so my goal is to help you feel connected so that you don't feel alone. In the beginning of the book, there are tons of resources that I put in there to help you scale your business. Because again, if you can bring those gifts that you have, your brilliance, into your business, that's how you help more people. And that's how we create this movement of healing in the world. So with all of that said, I have a truly beautiful human being, a fellow Cancer of mine. Mariam and I met, I think it was 2019, and I always like to tell this story because this is our first interaction. She's like, she like gave me, you signed up for my Quantum Queen course, and then you were like, like I was afraid you were going to scam me, and I'm like, but you were like, I don't even care, because like you were resonating with whatever I was talking with at the time, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to scam you. Like it's, I'm actually going to help you here. But that's how our relationship started. So I just think it's funny now to see how much you and I have grown together and supported each other. And so I just cannot wait to learn from you today and hear more about all of the beautiful things that you're doing in your business. So I will let you take the floor. Tell us what you do.
Hi, thank you, Christina, and for reminding me of that funny story. It's true how when we first met, I was a traditional pharmacist working in retail pharmacy, and I had never known that what coaching was, that pharmacists could do coaching or become a healer in healthcare. um, but I so resonated with what you were doing at the time, coaching and helping women, that I think like you said, you sparked something in me, something ignited where God was telling me this is important, pay attention to this,
Yep.
take her course, even if there is uncertainty. Because there was, like I said, I thought my coworkers at the time thought I was crazy to invest so much in myself, and they're like, she's probably scamming you.
Oh, totally.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so that's amazing. Thank you for reminding me of that. And fast forward to now, I've taken many courses with you and other coaches and healers,
Yeah.
and I am still growing and learning myself, um, with my business now, which is called Self Love First. And my purpose, and what gives me joy, is to help other women like myself, who may have been, overachievers, the high achievers, as I think all pharmacists, women, and a lot of women are. Um, how to prioritize ourselves, having this servant heart, being such givers, how to prioritize ourselves and prevent burnout, so we can keep giving and keep shining in our lives and our businesses.
Beautiful. And I just think of that wealth circulation, right? Like if you don't have anything to pour from, you can't circulate your knowledge, your gifts, your brilliance, all of that. And so I was actually just talking to my
Yes.
husband about this because I will call myself out. I am horrible. Like I love my business so much. I'm like, oh, but on a Sunday, like I could log on and do blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, Christina, no. And I have to like
Yes.
stop myself because the weekends
Yes.
I realize are such a time for me to like I color and
Mm-hmm.
I guess I love coloring. I got these like I got the 64 pack. I was super excited and it has a sharpener in the back, like total nerd. But like
Yeah.
coloring or taking a walk with my dog without my phone or meditating or whatever, all of those things really nourish me. And
Yeah.
it's kind of like I think about joy, like what sparks joy in me that makes me like I think of like in my inner child, what is that I can pour into
Yes.
myself so that I can circulate my wealth Monday through Friday in my business. So
Exactly. So you touched upon a couple of important topics that I would love to talk about,
yeah,
which are
boundaries.
boundaries. Yep, yep, boundaries. Our boundaries are your superpowers. Sometimes we put such a negative and connotation on that boundaries, but if you look at them from this sense of, like you said, nourishing yourself, protecting yourself, what gives you joy, what fills up your cup, so you can shine, you can give from not just the full cup, but from overflow, right? Give from overflow. So this is a topic that I'm very passionate about, because a lot of us, myself included, had to find out the hard way what it's like not to be overflowing with energy and to give from an empty cup. Being a full-time pharmacist and a mom, and maybe having a side hustle business, and
Yeah,
just being pulled in so many directions and forgetting about yourself. Because you can, right? Because we are such givers, we're so talented, there's so many areas that we want to reach into, and we forget to recharge, to rest, to rejuvenate. And that's where the boundaries comes in. But this idea of I am worth resting, it's actually it's actually what keeps me going, and what keeps me at going at my highest potential, and
yeah.
not just struggling and striving.
I was just sorry. I'm thinking of my
Yes.
father because my dad. So this is a trauma response, and I totally have. been conditioned that way as well. And I had to really work on my nervous system and all the different tools that we're talking about today, tapping and inner child work
Mm-hmm.
and healing and all of that. But my dad, cannot rest. Like, he's a 70-year-old man, and he has different like properties that he takes care of. He can't just sit there and actually be with himself, because it's a
Mm-hmm.
trauma response of, in the nervous system, the polyvagal theory, it's going to that hyper arousal state where it's not safe to be still. And so what you're talking about is so true, that we need to be able to rest. And at the same time, someone like my dad, and I know I had this pattern for a long time, it's like the guilt. Like, oh, well, I
Mm-hmm.
can't because then I'm not worthy, like you talked about before with worthiness. So
Right.
it's not safe to rest because there's this underlying unworthiness that's driving our behaviors. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that the guilt and shame, it's almost like an inner punisher. Like, oh
Yes.
no, you're not working hard enough. You're not doing
Yes.
enough. So like you need to da 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 da. And that drives people's actions unconsciously. So I would love to hear what you think about that.
Yes. So what came up for me is the inner judge, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all have this very harsh inner critic or inner judge that always keeps putting us down and making us feel not good enough. A lot of the resistance around imposter syndrome, people pleasing, we procrastinate, we become perfectionists. All these you call them blocks. Remember, I like that word, but you can, whatever word you use, it just acknowledging that these things exist in your mind, and they're not necessarily true, right? They're not what they're saying. The messages that are giving to you, that you're not good enough, that you have to be perfect before you can put anything out there, that you're a failure, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Those messages, they come, they critic you and judge you. And we talk about this in our sessions, recognizing that voice in your head when it happens, instead of just flowing with it and believing everything it tells you, just catching that voice in your head and saying, in the moment, and saying, no, I choose not to go there. I hear you, yet I choose not to believe you, because you know I am worthy. I am, this is my purpose. It's okay to follow it, and to put myself out there. So a lot of times I think that's what um, we're missing, right? We just sort of in enslaved to that voice in our head,
Right.
that is the subconscious mind, that is driving a lot of our thinking, belief system, a lot of our decision making and action taking or lack thereof. And this is the work we do. This is part of the inner work that we do together. So
Right, right. I'm even thinking of way, way back when I first started my journey, when I had an eating disorder, PTSD. The thought, I wasn't even aware of the thought. It was like thought action. Like, it was like this
yes,
automatic,
yeah,
like, punish cycle. And it was from, you know, multiple things. But for me, it's almost like it was even deeper than a judge. It was a punisher, because guilt seeks
right,
punishment. So it was like,
yes,
I'm not doing enough. I need to be punished. And it's not conscious. And
right,
once you start becoming conscious and meditating or bringing some of these tools in, it's like, wow, you
yes,
really start to see. And I know you always talk about this too. This is how I coach, is seeing it with compassion and
hmm,
attuning with that part of you that feels unworthy or feels guilt. Because whenever we go through a trauma, the energy actually splits. So you have the undigested emotion, and then you have the cognitive memory, the olfactory sense of, like, I could smell what was happening at the time, I could taste whatever in my mouth, all of those cognitive components too. And so what's often running the show is that undigested emotion of guilt, shame, some of those lower frequencies on the Hawkins scale. I wonder if I even have that. I do. So I'm going
hmm.
to pull that up here. I'm going to cover my face and not your face. But I want everybody to see this, is that this David Hawkins scale is and Mariam's like probably smiling because she knows it so well because I always talk
Yes,
about it.
yes, but I love it. I love how it illustrates.
Yeah, so this is
Um,
an energetic scale, and it's, what are we holding on to when we have these lower frequencies that are undigested? Then we have inactivity. If you look to the right of the diagram, that's why you hear people saying, "Oh, I really want to do this. I want to go start my own business. I want to da 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 da," but they can't because their nervous system is holding on to all of this trauma, undigested
right.
emotions. Um, and sometimes people go, to shut down, we're not going to go into the nervous system, but they literally can't move. And so then they beat themselves up even more, and the cycle continues. Oh, why am I not losing weight? Why am I not, whatever that outcome is for them? And so
Yeah,
that
yeah.
emotional scale really pinpoints the need for that deeper healing of releasing to be able to move up to those higher levels of remembering the divinity of who you are.
Yes.
So,
And that's a lot of what the positive intelligence work that I do
hmm
involves. It really separates the two brains, the survival brain, where a lot of these lower energies
yeah.
come from, and then he calls it the sage brain, where your true essence is, where you have self-love and empathy, and there's other powers like curiosity, creativity.
hmm
All these are come from a different part of your brain. And what we're talking about is doing this inner work, doing uh, sitting with yourself and shining a light on what am I feeling and why am I carrying these emotions, right? And this goes into deeper work, inner child work. Maybe you did have trauma in your past, childhood trauma, especially, or adolescent trauma that, you know, is bleeding into your current life subconsciously, right? And is creating the stories in your head and keeping you from your best self. And as I had my own trauma that I am still working on. I am still uncovering and learning from. But there was a time 3 years ago, before my journey started, before I decided to put a light on myself and just look a little bit deeper. I was terrified. I was terrified to go there. I did
Right.
not want to talk about it. I could not even acknowledge it. And
Painful.
it's very painful. It is very painful at the beginning, and there's a lot of fear. And this is, and I understand. We understand because of personal experience, because I've been through that myself, where
Right.
it takes you into some deeper, scary places. And when you have somebody who's holding your hand or holding the space for you, who can see you and hear you with love and compassion, it's not as scary, and you're able to release a lot of these lower frequencies of guilt, of shame. I experienced so much shame, um,
Right.
and I didn't know how to get it out of my system. And with shame, it's really interesting. Shame doesn't like being spoken to. Those are Brene Brown's words. And when I heard her say it, like something clicked in me, and I'm like, wow. So all I have to do is speak and just like let it out, just speak the words. And
Right.
it's true how amazingly this shift and how quickly it can happen with the right environment, with the right people.
Yeah, I want to highlight two things here that you said that I think are really brilliant. Number one, you need a therapist, a coach, somebody to attune with you because you can read a book, you can
Hmm.
listen to a podcast, but again, it's the releasing of that emotion, that
Hmm.
trapped emotion of that pain that you were just talking about that can be really terrifying.
Yeah.
And at the same time, there's so much liberation and freedom on the other side of that.
Oh,
So
yes.
so if anybody's watching and you're in that place, and you might be like, why are you guys talking about this in a business group? I promise you, this has so much. I would say 95% of business is exactly what we're talking about because
Yep.
it's you shining your light as you are. And if you're being, if you're dimming your light because of all of these past things that have happened, which of course it makes sense, because your body's trying to protect you, then you can't go move forward and take that aligned action and hear your intuition and get those divine, juicy downloads to create new things in your life. Like you talked before about, I know Joe Dispenza talks about survival and creation. So it's
Mm-hmm.
similar to that. When your energy is tied up in survival, there's no space for creation. And so the more that you release and unwind these survival patterns, you liberate energy to use as creation. And that's what
Yes.
people are always like, how are you churning out all of this stuff? I'm like, it's channeled.
Yes.
I'm not smart enough to make this up. Like this stuff is channeled. I didn't come up with this.
Yeah.
Someone else did. God did.
And
Go ahead.
yeah, you're so right about basically we're talking about being stuck in survival mode
Hmm.
versus your true creative, uh, you know, divinely connected self. So a lot of us are stuck in survival mode, and it's understandably so. We need to be wary to survive. The negative somehow shines brighter than the positive in our lives. This is why this work is so important, um, because it's clouding hide so you're basically hiding behind all the grief, the shame, the guilt, and not really showing up as your true self.
Hmm.
So I talk about a lot about self-love. um, all my groups are called or self-love first, right? And that was a divine download in itself when the business came through, and I decided to name it. It just was like that, self-love first. I didn't know why, and I'm still finding out why this is so important. um, and it is because through this love and empathy for yourself, if you don't have that, you're just not going to prioritize yourself. You're not going to sit down and maybe do the meditation or
Right.
sign up for what you think would help you overcome some of the, things that you're struggling with. Um, and this idea of unconditional self-love, where um, it doesn't matter what you've been through, it doesn't matter what you're going through or what you're doing or not doing, just having that love and empathy for yourself, acknowledging yourself for being resilient, for being a good person, right? um, it's just it sounds so simple, yet it's like one of the hardest things that we can do, because it's so much easier to just judge ourselves and compare with others, and make excuses and everything. So I just wanted to put that out there, that self-love and that empathy is unconditional. It's loving your inner child, it's loving that true essence, your divinity, your which is really the truth of who you are. And
Hmm.
we have forgotten who we really are.
Yeah.
So
I wanted to tell a story too about shame before. So I remember, back in my residency, this is like a random story. I don't even think I've shared it, but I, at that
mm-hmm,
time, had so much PTSD. I'd been kicked out of my house, fired from my job. All of that was happening. And I was in my residency. I think it was like a couple months in. And I would wake up in the middle of the night every night and binge on really unhealthy food. So it could have been pizza, whatever was around. And then I was very rigid during the day. So this was back in 2012, about 10 years ago.
mm-hmm,
And it was this vicious cycle of, I think it was like my inner punisher, right? The guilt.
mm-hmm,
And I remember holding that in, and no one else knew. It was like
yeah,
my secret, and no one else knew. And then finally one day I shared with one of my coworkers, and I just said, like, it was like the biggest deal that I shared it with him. It was like, it was just like, this is what I do. And he was like, he goes, okay, I can eat a whole pizza. Like, and like, he was
yeah,
really kind of like the best person to tell, because he just, It didn't phase him. He wasn't like, oh my God. So it was,
Yeah.
I don't know, I guess I just always remember, I remember exactly where we were sitting too, but it's that idea of, um, it's a big deal. It's like, oh my God, I have this thing that I can't share with anybody. And then once you speak it,
Yes.
that vulnerability really helps free up that energy, and then you can be witnessed.
Yes. Oh, I love that. You just said the word I wanted to talk about. Witness. We need a witness to our story, to
Yep.
our pain. And this is what is amazing. Um, you can't you can't do the inner work alone. You can do a lot of meditation, yes, so you sit with yourself. I'm not talking about that, but there is a level of healing that happens when you are witnessed at your most vulnerable,
Hmm.
with love and compassion. Choose wisely. Don't just go to someone who maybe is not a supporter, is going to judge you. I've done that too, where it's like, oh no, I shouldn't have said that, maybe I've overshared here.
Hmm.
But choose wisely. Loving, compassionate people who can hold space for you, who can hear you and witness you without judgment. And really, that's where most of my healing has happened and is continuing to happen,
Yep.
with my therapist, with coaches, with retreats. Remember your last retreat? I remember just sitting down and just bawling my eyes out because I felt so loved and supported, and I hadn't even started speaking yet. But
Yep.
that's what I needed. I needed
I
just to be
remember now.
there.
Yep.
You
In the
remember that,
beginning.
right? Yes, you
Yep.
just came to me and like you put your hand on my shoulder and I started bawling, because I felt the love and I felt witnessed and supported, and it's bringing me to tears, but sometimes that's all we need.
Yeah.
Um, so that's
And
that's what I'm passionate about, like creating these spaces, um, for women to come together and heal and just be vulnerable and share from the heart.
you said something really powerful just now, and it's something that I've been really working on mastering within myself is my own nervous system to be able to hold capacity for people. Like I feel like I could do that before, but it's an
Mm,
even deeper level that because I've gone to deeper levels within myself, I have more compassion and heart capacity to hold space with others. And when it doesn't even have to be coaching, like that's what I
right.
actually I started crying at the last conference because someone
Mm,
was saying, they asked a question, they said, how do I if I have like a Zoom call with somebody, how am I like really helping them? And I said, your love and presence is the medicine. And
yes.
when you're energetically stable within your own nervous system and someone feels safe with you, that is medicine in itself. You don't even need to be coaching. Just like with that, I
Yes.
put my hand on you and you were like, had that breakthrough moment. And so anybody watching, like, we're always like, oh my God, like I don't know enough, or what do I say in a coaching session? Being present and holding that space, even if it's a space of silence with someone, is so healing for
It is.
someone's nervous system. The consistency, because a lot of people grow up like maybe they don't have that consistent loving support no matter what. Like you talked about unconditional. A coach holds that space and
Yeah.
shows up every other week or every week for that space holding with you. That subconsciously is healing too. I was talking to my nervous system coach about it a while ago, and I was like, wow, man, there are so many layers of this that
Hmm.
we don't even realize, sometimes the power that we can have just by being heart centered and doing that inner work and stabilizing our nervous system to really be present with others. That is such beautiful medicine for people. So, no matter
Hmm.
who you're helping, if you're a real estate agent helping people sell houses, like we all want that. We want to feel safe and loved and valued and all of those things. So,
Right. And I'll just, if I could make one last point, about that. So, we being coaches and healers, um, sometimes, like you said, you feel like, oh, I'm not able to do that. I'm not ready to hold
Yeah.
space for so many people. Or that's a sign. No judgment here, because I've experienced that myself. And as you know, I took like almost a year off last year to do my own healing and grieving, because I felt like that. I felt not strong enough. I felt like I take priority. Right now, I need to concentrate on me. I'm not able to hold space. I'm not able to give as fully as I can right now. And that's okay. Take the time, do what really you know deep down you need to do. Sometimes that is rest. Sometimes that is silence and solitude. And sometimes it is boundaries to give you that space for silence and solitude and rest and time to heal and connect. And other times it's to go out and have fun and to play or to connect with your friends, whatever it is. Just having that connection with yourself and trusting yourself, your intuition, that and your body, that this is what my body is telling me right now, to
Right.
rest and not. So that those are also needed, so that when the time comes to do take action, to show up, you show up fully. You are ready to hold that space. You're ready to give from a, like I said, not just the full cup, but from the overflow.
Mm-hmm.
But remember, I love that visual where your cup should always be full. The cup is yours to be full. Fill that up first, and then when it's overflowing, it will just flow to others, and it would just naturally shine, and
Well, I
you
want to
just
thank
naturally
you
give.
because this memory just triggered in my mind right before the conference. I messaged you on
Yes,
Facebook, and you totally filled my cup that day. I was like, "Oh, like you were like, and I believe in you and like all these things." So it was kind
yes.
of a because usually I'm holding you and supporting you, and you held me in that moment. And you were like, you're amazing and this and that. And I was like, I'm ready to go. Like I'm ready to go on stage.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah.
was just I wanted to
You're,
thank you for that again because
you're so welcome.
I need this too. Like I
Yes,
that was a
heal,
big
heal,
deal, you know?
healers need coaches too.
Yep.
Healers need support too. Healers need love and care and empathy, and maybe more than you think, because you constantly give, you constantly shining, you're constantly pouring out your love, your energy. So you need to also receive, right? You need to receive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what just one more thing. I've been practicing that state of receiving in meditation every morning. And some of the most amazing things come through. Like one of them, feel free to take this, anybody that's watching. What came through the other day was like, the universe is always supporting me. Another one that came through was, everything good is always flowing to me, or something like that. Like all good things are flowing to me. And I was like, oh, that's good. And I just really
Hmm.
received it. And it's in meditation, you're not that you're stopping the thoughts, but you're just being a witness to the thoughts and like just allowing myself to receive that energy is nourishment. And so
Hmm.
I love that you brought up receiving. Yeah.
Yeah. And we could probably talk another hour about
I was just going
receiving.
to say, girlfriend, we could talk all day.
Yes.
I want to acknowledge you. I am so, so proud of you, and to just continue to see you
Thank
grow
you.
and thrive and support other people in your group. And so I would love to, share. I know that you had a special little gift that you wanted to share.
Sure. I would love to offer a free session to anybody who resonates, who's willing to maybe talk and see if they would, you know, want to continue working with me. Um, I do a lot of positive intelligence work, energy work, meditation work. So I would put my Calendly link in your comment section if that's okay.
Yeah.
and we'll go from there.
Tell me a little bit more about what a session is like with you, because I know that you have a lot of different tools and techniques. What ultimately is somebody going to walk away with when they get this free session?
So it's really to it's really like an interview to see if we can if we resonate and if we connect, right? um, because like we all talked about, having that safety, that love, that almost like sacred space of trust for someone to open up and want to work with you. So you cannot really know that unless you personally interact uh, with the other person. So that's the opportunity here, and I will, if that we are resonating and if we are a match, I will then talk to them about what I offer, if what I offer can help them with what they're going through. And my clients, some of them are in healthcare, some of them are new moms, so like it, it's a range of women going through like their own resistance, maybe a past trauma, or they have sort of neglected their own self-care and are burnt out. um, so we
I feel
work on
like
that.
what's coming through is like release to receive. Like we talked about that word receive. I feel like your sessions are a place for someone to come who's a giver and constantly pours into other people and all of these different things for their
Hmm.
cup to get filled, for them to
Right.
be witnessed in whatever they're moving through so that they can really feel full.
I really, really work on connection to self
Yep.
and prioritizing yourself, in whatever form that comes in. A lot of women, they think that they do, but they really don't. So I shine a light on that. Like, where are you on your list? Are you on the top of your priority list? Are you the number one person in your life? What are you doing for yourself? How are you nourishing yourself? So we work a lot on that. And that takes us deeper down into why we were not doing that, why we can't prioritize that, what's keeping us from that. So a lot of worthiness work, inner child work goes into that. Boundary work, we set up boundaries. um, we rehearse what that would look like, setting up the boundary, what would
That's
happen if somebody
helpful. Yeah.
crosses the boundary, and
Hmm.
just you know yeah.
I had to set a boundary today. Just one more quick story. This was interesting. There was a because we're doing redoing our basement. And Eric's so excited for his freaking man cave. That's he's like that's all he talked about for like a year. So now we have all these contractors coming in and out, and there was one that came in to hang the drywall, and Eric was like, Christina has a call at this call, and I was like, I can't have you in and out because my dog's gonna bark, it's gonna be
Of
disruptive, and the
noise,
guy
yeah.
the guy like gave Eric an attitude. So then I went
Yeah.
down there and we we actually had a fight, and I'm like, dude, you need to leave at 2 because like I have
Yeah.
an important call at 3. And
Yeah.
it was he didn't like the boundary, and I was like, and then he left. So I actually got and everybody like the other contractors were like, oh my god, like we're glad that you stood up to him because like he's a pain, blah blah blah. And I was like, I feel bad, but this is my boundary, like I need
Yes.
you to respect it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And a lot of
anyway.
that work, we do a lot of that work because boundary setting, it sounds simple, yet the reasons why we don't do it is because of, what you just said. There's, we
Conflict.
judge, yeah, we judge ourselves. What if the other person doesn't like us, right? What if they resist? And what if they cross our boundary again? And we learn to stand up for ourselves. We learn to be okay with disappointing other people. I like that was huge for me as a recovering people pleaser. I was like, oh my god, they think I'm a bad
Well,
person, or
here's the thing too, just like a cognitive thing that just came through as you're saying that. It's like if somebody's gonna be mad and not like you for one boundary that you set, how strong is
maybe,
that relationship? Like
yes,
that's
maybe
their
that's
judgment.
okay.
and that's
Yes.
okay. So, yeah.
Yes. Yes, they either will respect your boundary eventually, or maybe it's time that, that they fall away and the relationship, takes a break, and that's
Yep.
okay too. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being on. Again, if anybody's
Thank
watching the
you.
replay, if you have questions for Mariam, like I said, she is an expert. Please utilize her. She's part of this group. Again, she's also on one of the pages. I don't know. I would have to like thumb through real quick, but she's in the book too. So if you have this
Yes.
book, check her out in the Moving Beyond the Counter book. And thank you so much for being here with me. You're going to stay on. I'm going to
Thank you.
close this out, but you're going to stay on with me. So, all right, everybody. See you later.
Thank you so much.